fur. The night the king chose love over his crown, the stars went silent, the wind stopped breathing, and every creature in the Pride Lands felt history hold its breath. Because a ruler who risks everything for love can either lose a kingdom or create a legend that outlives time itself. Kion stood at the edge of Pride Rock while thunder rolled across the sky, his heart louder than the storm. Because, for the first time since he became leader of the guard, the battle before him was not against enemies, it was against destiny. Behind him stood his friends, his family, his duty, and in front of him stood the one lioness who had taught him that courage is not only found in roars, but in promises whispered softly under the stars. Ronnie watched him with eyes full of trust. And that trust weighed heavier than any crown. The Pride Lands were restless. Rumors spread that rival kingdoms were planning an attack the moment Kion left his borders to protect Ronnie's distant realm. Elders whispered that a king who leaves his land for love risks losing both. Warriors warned him that enemies respect fear, not kindness. Kion remembered the lessons of his father, Simba, who once told him that a true king listens to his heart but never abandons his people. Yet, Kion knew something deeper, that sometimes protecting love is protecting the future. And sometimes, the bravest path is the one no one understands. Sure, he had already burned forests, poised rivers, and turned loyal friends into enemies through fear. He sent a message to Kion, saying, "If you want to keep your queen safe, surrender your roar, surrender your crown, surrender your pride." The Lion Guard gathered that night. These saw doubt in Kion's eyes, and for the first time, they saw their leader afraid, not of battle, but of losing what mattered most. Yet instead of judging him, they stood closer. They reminded him that loyalty means standing beside your king, even when his path is uncertain. They said, if love is the reason, then love is worth fighting for. Kion made his choice before dawn. He would ride to Ronnie's kingdom, knowing enemies might attack his own land while he was gone. He would risk everything because a king who protects only land protects nothing, but a king who protects love protects generations. The journey was long and dangerous. Storms tried to turn them back, cliffs tried to stop them, whispers of fear tried to weaken them. He realized something powerful, that love was not making him weaker, it was making him fearless. When they reached Ronnie's homeland, they saw devastation. Villages burned, rivers ran dark, cubs hid in silence. Ronnie's people had lost hope. The warlord laughed when he saw Kion. He said, "A king who travels for love is a fool." He said he would crush both kingdoms and prove that fear rules forever. Kion did not roar in anger. He spoke calmly. He said fear wins battles, but love wins history. The battle that followed shook the mountains. Kion fought with strength, but he fought with mercy. He protected the weak, saved enemies when they fell, and reminded his guard that victory without honor is defeat. At the darkest moment, the warlord captured Ronnie and demanded Kion's surrender. The world seemed to stop. Kion could save his crown or save his queen. He chose love. He stepped forward, dropped his guard, and offered himself in her place. The warlord laughed, believing he had won, but something unexpected happened. The guards stood together. Ronnie broke free with courage. The people rose in unity. They saw a king ready to lose everything for love, and that sacrifice gave them strength greater than any army. When the dust settled, Kion looked at Ronnie, afraid of what waited back home. Had he lost his land for love? His people had protected each other. They had learned from his courage. They had become a family, not just subjects. Kion understood the greatest truth of all. Ronnie stood beside him, proud not of his strength, but of his heart. Love had not weakened him. It had made him the kind of king whose story would be told long after roars faded into memory. The king who proved that risking everything for love is not foolish, it is the bravest victory of all. The morning after the victory should have been peaceful, yet the silence over Pride Rock felt heavier than war. Because when a king risks everything for love, the true battle begins after the swords fall quiet. Kion stood alone watching the horizon, wondering if his choice had truly saved both kingdoms or simply delayed another storm. And in that quiet fear, he understood that love does not end with one brave decision. It demands courage every single day. Beside him came Rani, her steps soft but her presence strong. The lioness who had seen his doubt and still believed in him when he could barely believe in himself. She did not speak at first, because she knew kings carry storms inside their hearts. And sometimes the greatest comfort is standing beside someone who is still fighting unseen battles. Kion finally asked the question he feared most. What if my love puts everyone in danger again? What if enemies use you to break me? What if a king who follows his heart loses his people's trust? Rani answered with quiet strength. A king who hides his heart already loses everything. Love is not a weakness when it protects others. Love becomes weakness only when it demands selfishness. But new danger was already rising. Survivors of the defeated warlord had spread rumors that Kion cared more for his queen than his kingdom. They told neighboring rulers that the Pride lands were vulnerable. They whispered lies to create fear. And fear, once planted, grows faster than truth. Messengers arrived from distant lands, warning of alliances forming against Kion. Some said step down. Some said send Rani away. Some said choose power over love before you lose both. Even loyal friends, worried, they remembered past kings who lost their thrones because their hearts led them into traps. Kion felt the weight of history pressing on him. He remembered his father, Simba, who once carried guilt for mistakes made long ago, and he realized something important. Every king is judged not only by his victories, but by his fears. And the only way to silence doubt is through truth lived loudly. So Kion made a bold decision. He invited every rival ruler, every suspicious ally, every doubtful elder to a gathering at Pride Rock. Not to threaten them, not to boast, but to show them what love had truly built. When they arrived, they expected arrogance or excuses. Instead, they saw unity. They saw former enemies working together. They saw Rani teaching cubs courage. They saw the Lion Guard protecting strangers without asking their names. They saw a kingdom where loyalty was stronger than fear. Kion stood before them and spoke from his heart. He said, a king who rules through fear builds walls that fall in one storm. A king who rules through love builds bridges that stand for generations. He admitted his risk. He admitted his fear. But he showed the truth. His choice had not weakened his land. It had inspired it. Some rulers still doubted. One challenged him to prove that love makes strength, not weakness. So Kion accepted a test. Not a battle of claws, but a trial of leadership. They would send crises to his borders. He must solve them without war, without threats, using only unity. The tests came quickly. A drought struck the east. Raiders attacked the south. Old rivalries flared in the north. Each time, Kion did something unexpected. He asked for help. He listened. He trusted. Sent food before soldiers. He sent healers before guards. He reminded enemies they were neighbors before rivals. And every time, the crisis ended without bloodshed. The rulers watched in shock. They had believed fear was the only language power understands. But Kion showed them another language, harder, braver, stronger. Yet one final challenge remained. A traitor inside the Pride lands kidnapped Rani, hoping to force Kion into surrender and prove love destroys kings. When Kion heard, rage burned inside him hotter than ever before. For one terrifying moment, he wanted revenge more than justice. Then he remembered everything love had taught him. He remembered mercy, patience, courage without hatred. He gathered the guard, not for war, but for rescue. They tracked the traitor through dark valleys and broken cliffs. When they found him, he was shaking with fear, realizing too late what he had done. Kion could have ended him with one roar. Instead, he did something harder. He forgave him. He said, "Fear makes monsters of us all, but forgiveness gives us a chance to become better." The traitor fell to his knees, ashamed, realizing he had been defeated not by power, but by compassion. When Ronnie was safe again, the gathered rulers understood the truth. A king who risks everything for love does not lose authority. He gains a loyalty no army can buy. Because creatures will fight for fear only until fear fades, but they will fight for love until their last breath. Peace spread across the lands. Old enemies became allies. Young cubs grew hearing the story of the king who chose love and made it stronger than war. And in quiet nights, when stars covered the sky, Kion would still feel fear sometimes. Because courage is not living without fear, it is choosing love every time. Fear whispers louder. Thief. One evening, Ronnie asked him if he ever regretted risking his crown. Kion smiled softly and said, "Crowns are heavy, battles are endless, and enemies never truly disappear. But love gives meaning to every scar, every loss, every victory. Without love, a king rules a land. With love, a king builds a future." As the sun set behind Pride Rock, painting the sky with fire and gold, Kion realized the greatest victory of his life was not defeating enemies or protecting borders. It was learning that risking everything for love did not make him less of a king. It made him the kind of king the world had been waiting for. The king who proved that true power is not holding on to a crown, but holding on to the hearts that believe in you forever.